Welcome to the Go Big Redcast, the Husker Fan Sports Show.
Welcome to the Go Big Redcast. I'm your host, David Gaspers, and I'm with Boomer.
Well, I'd just like to welcome everybody to the Go Big Redcast, which according to ESPN metrics has a 2.9% chance of succeeding this week on the podcast. So that's to look forward to.
It's better than nothing. Also with Redcast, Rob.
Well, after some careful consideration and, a little bit of thought put into it, I believe that I think today there's going to be a huge announcement on the Redcast. I'm really looking forward to it. Everyone just get prepared. It's going to happen. We'll let you know.
Crazy is going to happen on the show, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Maybe Hockey will do a live report from Pinnacle Bank Arena as he's watching Nebraska play the Maine Black Bears.
Would you say he's at the main event?
Yes. So we are missing Hockey
I wouldn't
tonight.
be saying that, Rob. Yeah.
No, it was horrible, Rob. That was awful.
Thank you.
Hockey is watching the first game of the Nebraska basketball season. That's awesome. He's over there with our friend Schlitz, and hopefully they're going to get a victory. It's a little tighter than expected, but it looks like they're up by around 9 or 10 right now, Boomer, I believe.
They're up by 14 right
Yeah,
now.
they pulled away. It's 73-59 my last look. So Maine made it close there for a bit, but yeah.
All right. Well, that's good to hear. But we'll take a deep dive a little bit on the happenings of last Thursday. Rob referenced a crazy day here on the show, but it was really last Thursday. It was crazy for all of Husker Nation as debate of a potential coaching announcement came and went. And then we played a game on Saturday, 48 hours after that, and it looked like we might get a victory and not. And now we have to turn our attention to Michigan. Boomer, what was your take? Thursday was a weird day. There was just a lot of innuendo begin the day, and everybody thought something was happening. I didn't understand why everybody thought something was happening, but sure enough it was. But then it just kind of never happened.
Yeah, it was definitely an odd day. There was lots of, vagueness on Twitter. Some of it was media's, local media types. I don't know if they were intentionally insinuating something with this or if it was just random tweets that other people took off and ran with. But it was there definitely seemed to be something going on. I think there was enough people, at least in positions, to have some more inner sources to kind of say something was up. To now whether. It certainly wasn't a full, onboard Regents meeting to determine.
Right. Not possible that it was a full on, right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly sounded like there was some kind of something happened, I think, whether it's they met with something, they met with, potential candidate, or Trev met with a Regent or two, or, wanted to bounce ideas.
Right. I mean,
or they came to Trev, whatever it was. Yeah.
Right.
There was some manner of fire there to provide a little bit of smoke. So.
Yeah. Rob?
Yeah, it was kind of weird. I was hearing things. I was being told things.
Were there voices in your head, Rob?
There were voices in my head for sure. There was people texting. There was people calling. There was a lot of different stuff going on, I guess you could say, in the background. But there was a lot of uncertainty as well. So I never wanted to say that to go 100% all in on anything. I think I even stayed off of Twitter and any of those conversations because who knew?
Probably for the best.
Obviously,
moment.
The Regents were meeting, and it was a special meeting and all that. But I think Damon Betting did a really good job of kind of like explaining to everyone what could be happening, what was probably happening, what might be happening, and kind of throwing some water on that fire, a big old bucket on it.
So Rob, I didn't follow Damon.
Oh, you didn't see it. So he did a quick
day, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he did like he's calling it something bites or something.
It's like a little mini podcast he's doing on a daily basis. He's part of the Herd At Network.
And
now,
he
right?
basically just came on and said, "Yo, cool your jets. There's a million different reasons these people could be getting together. Not even all of them are going to be there. While yes, it's could be exciting, etc. Like don't get your hopes up. They're probably not going to announce a coach today. I mean, essentially what he said, and generally speaking, he knows things more than others, especially from a media standpoint, and I tend to trust him and his sources, whether he's like hinting at stuff or just being really direct about it. He tends to be spot on. So
yeah, no, I get it. I was just listening to sports radio today, and I mean, like, feels like every show is taking their own position, right? Like some of them are like, this seems like it's trending Mickey's way, and others are like, Mickey's completely out of the conversation, and everything in between, right? But I heard Mitch Sherman actually from The Athletic on Unsportsmanlike Conduct, and I mean, he kind of laid out that same scenario. He's like, look, something probably was happening, but that the fact that Trev maybe had some individual conversations or with meeting with a few of the regents, right? Maybe verbally vetting someone, right? Maybe there's been conversations moving forward with a candidate, and someone catches wind of that, and then it's a game of telephone, right? And I mean, everybody just runs with it. And Boomer, I think this is a classic example of like when there's a lack of information and intentionally a lack of transparency in a process like this, you create a vacuum. Right. And then when there's just a sucking noise because people are just going to fill that void up. Right. And it's almost opposite. It's the same principle, the opposite of what Trev said at the presser, actually, when he announced the firing of Scott Frost. Like, you're going to hear rumors that I talked to so-and-so. Well, it's the same thing when you're not hearing anything, people are just going to presume stuff. Right. This like this whole regions thing. Right. They're just going to create something out of nothing.
Yeah, I mean, that's just basic human psychology.
Yeah.
You pin that if we don't have information, we're gonna fill it in. That's just what people do. If there's a gap in what we know and what we want to know, we're gonna come up with something to fill that gap. So, and that's what people do. And that's something we talked about when it came to press conferences back in the day. If you're not giving some information out to the crowd, people are gonna come up with their own thing, and that's what happened here. And part of it also, I think, is just this has been a long coaching search. I mean, it feels like.
But we knew that was going to be the case.
Yeah. It's
unless it was going to be Mickey or someone who
Yeah.
doesn't have a job, it was going to be a long coaching search.
Yeah, and again, that's going to come with it. It's just a very long coaching search, and people at some point get tired of waiting, even though we knew it was going to take this long. But, today's society where, you tweet once and it's around the world and 85,000 times with 8 billion responses, we're more trained than ever to want a little more instantaneous information and less patience for what it's worth.
Yeah.
So, and that's just human nature. So, Trev said he was going to handle it this way, and so far he has. Now, whether it's for the best or not, well, I guess we'll find out. So,
yeah, it's intriguing. I mean, the idea, like, okay, so like the initial batch of names, Lance Leipold, Dave Aranda, Bill O'Brien, several others, aren't being bantered around as much. Now we have a new batch of names. Right now it's Gary Patterson and Jeff Munkin, not Todd Munkin, but Jeff Munkin. Dave O'Brien's still on that list. I think Rules and all these type of things. And saying, Rules are going to sit out, and everybody's speaking like they know stuff. And the reality is they don't know anything, right? Absolutely.
No, why
nothing.
Do you think we did a 48-team coaching draft? I mean, or we don't know anything. We'll get it right eventually.
Yeah. It could still be Lane Kiffin for all we know.
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean, that's my point, I guess, is like people are saying, like, obviously, they struck out with all these names that were given to us initially. And I'm like, just because Bruce Feldman threw out a list of names and now it sounds like those names aren't being repeated, suddenly those names are off the board, means nothing to me, right? I mean, like, no discredit to Bruce Feldman, but I don't think he knows either, guys. I just really don't think so. And so, the actual list that Trev is working on, I don't know if any media member knows the entire list. And that's not how it's gonna work. It reminds me of like the USC coaching search last year, right? Everybody's like James Franklin's going to USC and all this type of stuff. I don't know what other names got thrown out there. And it was a really long coaching search, Boomer, right? Almost similar to this. I don't know how long Clay Helton got fired really early. And lo and behold, they get Lincoln Riley. So I want to have everybody. I'm not Mr. Positivity on this show typically, but everybody needs to cool their jets on saying like, oh, we're gonna get Mickey because he's the only person who will take this job, and they're saying that Trev won't pay him enough money or all this type of stuff. It's like, are you kidding me? Just settle down, and we've got 3 more weeks to go. Rob.
Well, do we add Frank Reich to the conversation now too? You know?
Rob, did Reich lead the greatest comeback in NFL playoff history?
I believe he did.
Oh yeah, against the Buffalo Bills versus the Buffalo Bills versus God. I watched that game live.
Houston Oilers, wasn't it?
Versus the Houston Oilers.
Oilers.
It was right. The Houston Oilers. Yeah, and they were up they were down 35-10 at half or something like that, and ended up coming back and winning it 49-42 or something like that. Was that right? I was in San Diego my freshman year of college over the Christmas break watching that game. I remember exactly where I was because my buddy Nick Martinez was still sleeping.
Yes, I wanted to hear about Nick Martinez.
So I just remember. Sorry, it's the way that I remember certain things.
That's fair.
Vegas Jared just made fun of me saying that we're going to get Lincoln Riley. I didn't say that, but my point is still taken on that one, Vegas Jared, in the sense of look at LSU. LSU fired Coach O, mid-season again last year?
Yeah,
that coach, oh my God, who's LSU going to get? No, they overplayed their hand and blah, blah, blah. And then they go get Brian Kelly, right? I'm not saying either one of those are happening, but the idea that it's an extended coaching surge where our first batch of names already been passed over because we've been turned down is just ludicrous to me. Some of it, or may of it, all of it will happen, but you got to let it play out. And maybe you get a better name, right? I mean, how many times, when USC hired Pete Carroll was the 9th guy on their list. Turned out okay, right? So as long as you have a deep pool of candidates, you still might have a really good hire.
Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, too, I mean, it's as long as the new coach we have makes silly TikTok videos with the players and beats Alabama, I think we're going to be just fine.
And he has to talk in a Nebraska accent at various times, right?
Yeah. Talking about cornfields and whatnot, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what a Nebraska accent is quite really because I don't think I've ever heard it. Now, if you're from Colorado, you don't pronounce your T's. I know that, so it's mountain or down.
Well, there's a lot of telemarketers in Nebraska because we have a kind of a lack of a strong accent, typically speaking. So
you could say it's middle of the country accent.
Boomer, the Gary Patterson rumor is interesting to add into his name. A lot of people discredit that, and they're like, "Oh man, Gary Patterson, he's past his prime. TCU was tanking it, and now they're really good with the coaching change." I think Patterson is 62. He's got a statue outside of that stadium there in Fort Worth. Was there for 20 years. Defensive guy who, offensively runs the RPO. By all accounts, sounds like he's still interested in coaching and still has energy to do it. And maybe he needed a change, right? Is this idea that you're 62 and all washed up. Again, I think there's a lot of hogwash to that type of stuff. I don't know. I mean, you don't need Gary Patterson to be here for 2 decades. You need him here for 5 to 7 years. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, he's a possibility. I mean, he was at TCU for about 21 years or something like that.
Yeah,
I mean, a long time. So, yeah. And I know, the rumor was he'd always had interest in being here prior. The rumor was he interviewed when Pelini was hired, and really wanted the job. So, there has been interest in the past, and he's been a successful coach and shown he can, do a lot with a, traditionally lower tier program. And hell, were they in the WAC when he started there, or Conference USA? He's helped
Yeah,
bring
he
that
maybe
program
whacked
into
Mountain West. He
yeah,
like
they've been
hopped
in a
around.
lot of different conferences, and then
Yeah,
heck, he's brought him into he left him in good enough shape to be playoff contenders this year.
this year exactly.
Yeah,
It's
even in
not like that.
2014, they probably
Yeah.
legit could have been a title team, and
I mean, it's
they
one of
won a
those things
Rose
that-
Bowl. I mean, good grief, they've been. So it's there
Run his
again. He
course,
wouldn't be, like you said, you wouldn't get another 20 years out of him. He might be the guy that rights the ship a little bit and kind of steadies everything and gets us on a trajectory in about 5 or 6 years, and he can quietly retire and pass it on to somebody else. I don't know, certain possibility.
Yeah. Or in the opposite, like Bill O'Brien's a name that's still been floating out there, and I have no reason why people are, down on that idea. He may not be a long time solution either. He may want to get back to the NFL, but if you'd give us 3 to 5 years of some 8 or 9 wins and get the thing back on course, we gotta be able to be realistic on maybe we don't have a hire here that's going to be a 20-year solution. It might be a 5 to 7 year solution.
Josh McDaniels should be available soon, so we should maybe add him to the list too.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I've been thinking a lot about the whole. Does they have to have Power 5 experience and all that type of stuff? And there's a lot of examples out there that not being the case. Obviously, even internal to our previous coaches. But obviously Kirby Smart wasn't a head coach before he took over Georgia. Dan Lanning is now in Oregon. Got blown out in that first game by Georgia. Ever since, Oregon's looked pretty good. Lots of other good examples of first-time Power 5 coaches. May not be the perfect situation for that, but we'll see.
Wouldn't that be something if Oregon made the playoff and Alabama didn't?
It's quite possible, right?
Yeah.
It's not out of the realm of possibility this season. Yeah.
Yeah. Oregon looks good.
All right. Hey, Dave.
Well,
I'm sorry. I was gonna ask though and one last question, because it's been asked a couple times already too. Is it, if they are gonna hire Mickey, do you think it's better to do it sooner than later at this point? Like maybe before the Iowa week or something? Like, there was a question.
Yeah. So I'll Rob, get ready to do the sponsors, because I know we're a little late on that, but we'll make sure we do that. And I think we have this as a mailbag show. I believe that came from Husker Nut. I think had that similar question, right? It was like, if it was going to be Mickey, would it already have been done? I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you gain from doing it per se, especially after losing 3 games. I don't know what you would have gained from doing it last Thursday when you had just lost 2 and you had 4 games in front of you, and the odds of you winning one of those was relatively low. So now it looks really grim. So I don't know what you gain from it.
I don't either.
At all, to be honest with you. And I guess I would answer that in total by saying I'll stand by the idea that Trev should have a set criteria and an evaluation process.
Checks the boxes was his term. I mean,
check the boxes and look. I mean, some of that would be how well Mickey could do during this season, right? Good or bad of it, and let it play out. He's got 3 more games to show that he's head coaching material, and we can talk a little bit about maybe his decision to let Whipple stick with Chipper Purdy as something that doesn't fare in his favor, right? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, Rob. Let's do those sponsors.
Okay. Yeah. Well, first, I want to remind everyone that in a couple weeks here, on November 18th, the Go Big Redcast is going to be doing a live show at the Hale Varsity Club. We are going to be starting at 6 p.m. 2 hours, free entry, all ages. You can reserve a table now. You can go to the Hale Varsity Club website, or you can find them on Twitter or Facebook, any of those places, and there's a link there that you can reserve your table. We might have a couple of guests show up, so that would be pretty neat. Still out there waiting to hear back from some people, but otherwise you can just hear me and Honky, maybe Boomer. I have no idea what Boomer's doing that day. And I think Mac is going to join us.
Whoa. Nice.
Yeah, I know. And my son is actually coming out, and it's funny because, and this is relevant, Dave, but he's coming out. It's his first Nebraska game ever. It's awesome. His first football game other than the Northern Colorado games that we go to up the street. But it's his first real big football game in a giant stadium. and he's really excited just to be able to sit there in the crowd and watch his dad do his thing. I mean, my 6-year-old daughter told her entire class the other day that my job was the Redcast. So I'd like to talk to you guys a little bit more about my salary, please. All right. Next up is the Hail Varsity. Don't forget, you can go to hailvarsity.com/subscribe and enter promo code Redcast for $10 off your subscription. The new magazine just came out here recently, and well, yeah. Anyway, it's some old stuff in there that we just don't need to talk about anymore.
All
But
right.
it is some great articles. I just, I mean, it's some stuff about the old coach. There's some stuff about volleyball, and there's always good articles written there by Aaron Sorensen and crew. So definitely worth picking up. $10 off your first year subscription. Also, Alumni Hall, 2 locations in Lincoln, 1 downtown, 1 in South Point Pavilions. You can go to alumnihall.com/Nebraska-Cornhuskers. And, you can pick up some pretty cool stuff there, like the Hawaiian shirt that I'm wearing there. And they've got all of the licensed Adidas apparel there as well. So Alumni Hall, check them out. And then our good friends over at Smack and Smooch, Shane and Laura, they make all of the Redcast branded stuff. And if you're looking for some branded things for your company or for your family reunion or your high school reunion, or if you're just looking to make a silly Husker t-shirt, like hashtag War Daddy Up. I wore this shirt last Saturday and now I'm gonna have to burn it. But I mean, that's only because I can't wear the same shirt. I'm running out of Husker shirts because we keep losing. So I need to find
up with that tradition,
shirt.
Rob.
I'm trying, Dave, and it's hard. So, and I guess, so check them out, follow them on Facebook or on Twitter, send them a direct message, and order all of your apparel there. And again, I just want to let you guys know that I'm really pulling for Matt Rule, because again, we might be able to make some extra money with the Redcast by doing some appearances with Honky, and I think that it would be a great thing to do.
It's an uncanny likeness, really. I mean,
it really is. I mean, it's something else, man. Like,
I mean, in fact, wasn't Rule spotted at the game?
He was. He was actually tonight. Look at that. He's
there's Rule in the background right there.
Yeah,
obviously.
You can see him in the background. He's wearing a Husker hat and everything. So
yeah,
kind of weird.
Looks very enthusiastic to be in Lincoln.
Well, I mean, they did win tonight. The Huskers are 1-0. Rank them.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
In
fact, I'm going to tweet that now and get some angry people at me telling me I need to hold my horses because nobody gets sarcasm. So.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and put our scarlet-colored glasses on and talk all things Husker football, and do a quick breakdown of what we saw on Saturday. Then we'll open it up to the mailbag. Boomer, starts off great. 10 a.m. kickoff for me, 11 there in Lincoln. Score on the first drive. Scripted plays look great. Running the ball, even QB runs. Second drive results in a field goal. We're up 10-0. Defense is playing lights out. Golden Gophers have negative rushing yards, including Mo Ibrahim in the first half. Last play of the half, even some questionable clock management there. Ty Robinson sacks Tanner Morgan and open up the second half. Minnesota has a backup quarterback who looks much better, actually. And suddenly Mo Ibrahim looks much better, and everything kind of falls apart. And we have, I think, 6 straight series, 6 or 7 3 and outs or turnover series. Just,
I think it
crazy,
was
huh?
Yeah, 6 straight 3 and outs or turnovers, and that's not good. I mean, it was just kind of this entire season again in a microcosm where the first scripted series looks great, and it seems like we're going to be world beaters and can't be stopped, and then everything just evaporates. It's almost difficult to explain at this point why this happens, week in and week out against a lot of these teams. It's just the scripted plays work, and then something switches at some point in the game, and the offense just doesn't seem to be able to pick it back up. I listened to a little bit of the post game, presser from Fleck, just his comments on it, and he had mentioned that they had to throw out their defensive plan. One, they weren't entirely sure who to prep for since there was a possibility of 3 quarterbacks, and he said, apparently what they were planning for isn't what we were running those first couple series, and then
I suppose we ran the ball.
Yeah, we ran the ball and we did some other stuff. And he said he was talking with the DC up above, and he just said, "Oh, let's throw out our defensive plan and do something else." And then whatever else they did, either forced us to do or had us do different things, or we went away and did.
They
different
likely
things,
brought up the safeties.
Yeah,
I haven't really looked at the film much, but I mean,
they did
to stop the run, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we weren't going to throw over them, and sure enough, I mean that kind of works. Boomer,
and
I think
totally changed the tenor of the game. Yeah.
Yeah. So Vegas Jer asked this question. I'll paraphrase it a little bit, but he said, "Obviously, we are amazing on our first drive when it's scripted, and I know you cannot do this every game, but could you one game just say these are our scripted plays on the first drive, and if we get the ball the second half, we're going to use the exact same script?" He says, "I guess I just don't understand why we don't run some of the exact same plays that work so well on that first drive." Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think some of it does come down to the defense reacting to what we did in those first drives. It works, and they make a change, and then for whatever reason we don't adjust the offense to adjust to their adjustments, or we don't have the personnel or the plays in to attack what they do. So and that seems to have been the case. I mean, how many times have we scored in the first drive in a game this year? It's been a lot, or at least
the first drive of the game. Ross was good at it too. I don't know
it's
what.
been quite a bit, and then a lot of it's just kind of sputtered, in other games after that. It's just kind of bizarre, but there seems to be just some difficulty reacting in game, whether it's just we don't have the plays ready or we just don't have the talent to run what they want to run, and they're just trying to force it. I don't know. So it's just kind of a mystery at this point.
Rob, it's interesting in the sense of, so obviously they practice those 12 to 15 or so scripted plays a lot more. You have more reps, at least your QB1 does, and the rest of your starting offensive team on those plays. Now, as we know with Coach Osborne, he would have had 4 stations running the exact same thing, so everybody would have that experience, and you're getting more reps, and we don't do that here, and a lot of other places don't. So it's not say that we're unusual by mainly having one station practice essentially, but it does seem like they are very good at executing those first 15 plays or so. And then we can't replicate that more organically as the game goes on. My question, I guess, maybe to you is like in the NFL, that would make sense that you can't run the same play twice, because I mean, like, they've seen so much film and those guys are so well prepared. You're gonna get them once and you're not gonna get them again. But in college, it feels like to me like, you run the same play maybe out of a different formation. Again, a reference to what Tio would used to do. You run the exact same play out of a different formation and it creates success. Well, why can't you run, to Jared's point, why can't you run at least a few of the same plays that were so successful in the first 15 again? They just don't go back to them.
Well, Dave, you're right. In the NFL, a lot of times that they also will run plays to set other teams up so that they can run certain plays later in the game, right? So like, they may
Frost would do that too.
Yeah,
you can tell.
And the show, yeah. And what blows my mind here is that our run game was working really well, and I don't recall at any point Minnesota actually stopping it. What I recall was like all of a sudden we went from like running the ball, and then all of a sudden we went like pass, 3 and out, and then the next series pass on first down, try to run it on second down. It was mind blowing, because it just felt like we almost got scared. Like, oh my God, what if this is working? Like, we can't, what if they catch on? What if they catch on? We better change it.
Rob, you had one of your best tweets based off of that, man.
And it's true. I honestly, Dave, you and I know we give each other a lot of crap, but I've been watching football my entire life. I did not play, admittedly, but I've been watching it long enough to like have seen a lot of things on the football field. And I can say that I honestly cannot recall the last time that I have seen a coach single-handedly just like change the entire game plan based on success. I mean, like, they changed it. He changed it. It was almost like he was scared that they were going to catch on what he was doing so well. So he like flipped the script right away. And not only that, but I don't know, man. Like Purdy, it would be great to see him run the ball. There was a couple plays where he did run the ball, where he realized like, oh God, my guys are covered, and he took off down the field. I think he had like a 15 or 20-yard run at one point.
Scored the touchdown.
And it was great. And I was like, oh my God, we're going to win this game. Like, this is exactly what we needed. This is the life we needed. And then the very next series, they just went pass. And it was, I don't know, man. At this point, I think flabbergasted would be the perfect word for me to use, because I really don't have an explanation. I really, at some points this point in the season, I'm almost tired of talking about it.
I was curious, so I just thought I'd kind of look up how our drives were in that first half after after 10 points. Our first drive that stalled started with a Grant run for 6 yards, 2 Purdy passes, then a sack. Grant ran, incomplete pass, punt. Next one was a penalty. Ramir Johnson making an appearance off the milk carton for 1 yard. Another sack, pass, complete, punt. Then the next drive was Grant had 2 runs, then an incomplete pass and a punt. So there was some Grant in there, I suppose more than I remember, but
yeah,
it seemed a lot of it was we would take a sack and get way behind, and then I kind of forced it. I think, so I think that might be the big problem.
Yeah, I heard it on the one of the radio shows. Broke it down, and essentially we were around 65% run the first 2 drives, and then the 6 or 7 in the middle where we didn't do anything, it was about 50-50, and then we were back to 65% with Logan at the end of the game, and that was successful again. It's hard to figure. So in regards to Mickey Joseph and this decision to just stick with Chuba Purdy, it feels like this is an odd thing to me. And this is like, I keep on hearing everyone say, like, Mickey wants the job. And he was decisive with things like firing Chins and making other changes in his staff. But he doesn't feel like he's can tell Whipple, like, look, I mean, I need to win this game, run the ball so we can get this game as a W, because because he's got to be like, if he's really trying to win, why is he not telling his OC to adjust a game plan that results in success? I don't buy it, right? I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder, like, who's running the team, I guess. I mean, is Whipple just that stubborn? You know what I mean? Like, maybe he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah,
they obviously decided to run the ball the first 15 plays, the 2 first drives.
Yeah.
So he was willing to do that, but then afterwards, forget about it, right?
Yeah.
And then the idea that, I mean, Logan does seem like he is more comfortable right now. And Chuba might be a great quarterback in the future, but for whatever reason, he doesn't feel comfortable in his offense. This is a guy who started at Florida State, and I think, Boomer, you could look at the stats. I think he actually had a decent game that day. And he just doesn't look comfortable out there for whatever reasons. And Logan looks more comfortable, and everybody can see that. But the coaching staff, waited till the fourth quarter essentially to really turn to Logan Smothers. It's befuddling.
Is he going to start this week, you think?
I have no idea.
Because
I don't know either.
I mean, we all read the same articles, and it's like, if Casey can grip a ball, is he going to try to go out there? And it sounds very Adrian-esque, but I mean, I'm just tired of stupid interceptions over the middle to like guys that are obviously not open. And it's like, I'm yes, Dave, I am saying run the damn ball. I know it's shocking to you at this point, but I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I think Smothers might be the best guy to go with, because he's going to, at least if anything, with the run game, slow the game down. And
he's proven he's seems like as good of an arm as Chuba. I mean, he threw a couple of really good balls in that fourth quarter, and Trey Palmer should have caught that last one, to be honest with you. So, Boomer, what other questions we got there in the mailbag?
Well, we've had a few pop up. A lot of them did deal with questions on Logan Smothers and the coach, where we'd go with that, and we've kind of covered some of that. We did have Kurt ask if we do have a coaching hire, we're going to announce it, before the Iowa game, just to give the team something positive to go with, or do you wait till afterwards, or when do you time a coaching announcement?
I mean, I would say it purely depends on who the hire is. I guess if the season's lost by that point, we're not going to a bowl, and you have a coach that is eligible to start right away, you might consider that. I don't know. I mean, that means you're going to do it on Thanksgiving week. That doesn't seem like the best media time. You might actually get better run the following Monday anyway. So I don't. And if it's a sitting coach, then no, you're going to wait till that coach is available. So you don't make the hire to be a splash. You make the hire for it to be the right hire.
Well, we hope anyway. Yeah. And then we've also had questions from Mike Schneider on Twitter at Coach Schneid28. If you had retained 4 and only 4 assistant coaches for the next hire, who would they be and why for the next staff?
Rob, go for that one.
Well, I know who I wouldn't retain, so that pretty much leaves everybody else.
That simplifies a few things. Yeah, it's hard to say, I guess.
I mean, you know,
4 is tough because a lot of it depends on who the new coach is and what he wants to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, obviously Mickey, you know, but is he going to be an assistant coach? Or are you going to have him more in like, you know, head of recruiting in other areas? Or,
if he's the head of recruiting, he can't go out on the road, so it doesn't work.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's fair. So and then
has to be a position coach.
Bush, obviously, you know, I really do like what he's doing with the defense here in the second half of the season. You know, I will say that a lot of the defensive woes that we're having in the second half of games, I don't believe are based off of the fact that the defense is playing poorly. It's just hard to maintain the intensity in that drive. Yeah, because we're going 3 and out, you know what I mean? Or like 5-6 plays and then they're off the field and they're not slowing the game down at all, you know, running clock or anything like that. So the defense is just on the field constantly, it feels like. So
yeah.
You know.
So back to the question, Rob.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That was part of it because I said Bush. I don't know, man.
Can you put that back up, Boomer?
The question itself, or like
the response? Vegas Jared said Mickey Bush, Rudin, Applewhite. I do think Applewhite could be interesting. Obviously, he did some good recruiting with those running backs. You gotta like both Grant and AJ Allen. And has those Texas ties. Someone like Gary Patterson, I mean, Applewhite would be an obvious continuation of that. I have no idea, though. Rude's interesting. Obviously, Nebraska ties. What about like Fisher? I mean, like he's up to this year has been highly regarded as an assistant coach from a recruiting and a development standpoint. Probably our most success comes from that secondary.
Yeah, that's a good question. Man, it is tough.
He's a Frost guy, so it's been awfully quiet on that front.
What about Rayola?
A lot of it, like Rob said, it's easier to know who you'd get rid of for sure than who you'd definitely want to keep. I mean, there's some people that you know are not going to be here next year. So, man, especially picking 4. Yeah.
And even Rayola, like, do you want some kind of consistency on the offensive line? I realize that like that's a big weakness for our team that needs a lot of improvement, but I mean, they haven't played. I mean, I know a lot of people they're much maligned, but I don't feel like in a lot of instances, like given the number of injuries they've had and the lack of depth that we obviously have there, like they haven't been terrible. I mean,
no, they've been horrible, but it may not be his fault.
Yeah,
I'll give
that's
you that,
what I'm
Rob.
saying. Yeah, that's why I prefaced it with all those other things before.
At times they've not been good, but I think individually, I think there's been some performances, and some of it's hot and cold. To be honest with you,
and we don't even have a ton of penalties either, which is like
that's
true.
And
that's
so there is that.
Because that shows discipline, and that's
collectively they have not performed to the level. But some of that might be the offense that we run. So
I just don't.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was just I'm putting it out there. That's all. I don't know. You know.
I hear you. I mean, Becton obviously is respected in Georgia. If you want to continue to do the recruiting thing, that could happen. Yeah. Good question.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish.
Maybe.
You know,
like the positive thinking Vegas Jerry says that keeping Raiola on staff would get us Dylan, but that doesn't seem like that's the case. So
there's
maybe his little brother.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
right.
All
right. What else we got, Boomer?
Well, that's pretty much the extent of the questions that we've had. So, any more come in, we'll definitely throw them out. But
all right. Well, What are we looking forward to on Saturday versus Michigan? We haven't launched into the betcast yet, but
I'm looking forward to waking up in the morning, Dave, and drinking some coffee.
like, why is this was it a 2:30 Central time on ABC?
Yeah.
I'm like, what in the world? I guess
I think
the
people want to see
fifth-ranked
Michigan
team.
is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a helmet game.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, I think you might just hold Casey back and not worry about this game. Let Logan or Purdy play, and then try to get Casey healthy to try to win one of the last two, just to give a little oomph to the fan base. I don't know.
I agree with you 180% on that, Dave. Honestly, he's already hurt. There's no reason to put him out there, even if he's at 85%. Mickey likes to always use the line, well, I let the players tell me when they're ready. Well, you know what, Mickey? Step up, be the head coach, and tell him he's not playing. Because I realize you want to keep
I have no idea what his
guessing,
condition
but,
is.
So,
yeah,
sorry,
and especially when it comes to, like nerve and being able to grip the ball. And we saw what happened with Vedral and Rutgers, when he was playing against us. And he had
it sounds like a similar situation.
He couldn't throw the ball, and it basically killed their chances in that game, which they could have won had he been healthy the entire game, and he couldn't, and it'll kill you. And if Casey can't throw, I mean, that's a huge problem, especially as the game goes on.
Maybe address him, give him the illusion. I don't know.
Yeah. And then, there's another question that came up, an article we read earlier today, and, Vegas Jerry references it here when it comes to Smothers. This would burn a red shirt if he plays in this game. He's played 4 games already.
Yeah.
So do you want him to even play in this as well, or does he care? I don't know. He might not, but
a lot of people thought
you got to factor in your decision. Yeah.
That he would be already gone, right? I mean, obviously, with this new offensive coordinator, this wouldn't work. But he seemed to be very patient, a little bit of a long play here. I mean, it could all come back. Next year, he might have a new OC that's back to the running quarterback, and he's in a position to start because of just, the experience. I don't know. It's a really good question. If he's looking to transfer, you would think he'd want to save that. But I get a sense, I mean, he seems to be just like a team player. I think if he gets called on, he's going to go in there.
Oh, I would agree. I think if people ask him to play, he'll play. Yeah, but if you're the coach, do you do that or not? I don't know. So, and again, it depends whether you think you're going to be back as a staff, whether he's going to be back next year, what role you see him playing in your team next year. So a lot of questions go into that decision too. It's not
Logan's perspective, if he is looking to transfer or even wants to play in the next coaching staff, if it's not this one, losing the year of eligibility is costly in some ways, but you're putting more film on tape there to actually, make your case to be a starter somewhere else or with the next coaching staff. So, I mean, it's an opportunity, right? I'd be hard to turn that down, I think.
Yeah, it'd be pretty vicious. So I don't know. A lot of big decisions that have to be made here. This is what coaches do as part of being a head coach. So it'll be interesting to see the kind of decisions that are made here. And the game itself, this is probably going to be painful. We looked at the stats. We posted those on Twitter. From Husker Max, and I think we lead Michigan in 3 categories out of the 24 or so that are on there. One is like total passing yards, one is return yardage, and one is like kickoff return yardage.
Return yardage,
yeah. Not a lot is in our favor as far as just pure numbers go, but you can make numbers mean anything.
Chance of winning according to all.
It's not 0, so there is that. So there's a percentage. It's tough.
Hey, Rutgers was up on Michigan at halftime. Now they did lose 52
that
to
is
17.
Kind of the one thing with Michigan.
Well, we are really good at being up on teams. I guess last week we were up on a team at halftime.
Michigan starts games slow for some reason. I've watched them a few times, and I went back and looked at their last few games. Like Rutgers, they were down 14-7 at halftime. Sparty, they only had 13-7. Penn State, they had 16-14. Indiana was 10-10, and Iowa was 13-0 at halftime. But the problem is they go on to win those games.
That sounds like a system bet.
Yeah. The problem is they go on to win those games 52-17, 29-7, 41-17, 31-10, 27-14. By my math, they outscored their last few opponents 100-3 in the second half. So
they're like a 29-point favorite.
This could be one of those games where it's tied at halftime, 10-10 or 13-10 or something like that.
So your smart bet here, I'm getting ahead to the betcast, but your smart bet here would be to take Nebraska to cover the first half and then take Michigan, bet them at halftime, and take Michigan to cover the
yeah,
back
that was
half.
going to be a bet this week, Dave. Yeah, that would probably be the way to go. If
I
history
actually
tells
did
us
that.
anything, yeah, that would be the way to go.
I did that last week with Ohio State Northwestern. When Northwestern went up on them, I got Ohio State under 2 touchdowns, and sure enough, they only won 21-7. But I mean, halfway through the fourth quarter when they went up 21-7, I'm like, Northwestern's not going to score again. And sure enough, so you can get value off of that. All right, guys. If we don't have any more questions, we can go into the betcast.
Sounds good.
Let's do it.
The betcast picks of the week.
All right. Let's see if I can find her. No,
that was 2 weeks ago.
No, that was last week, Dave. Yeah.
Do we have one? We had it up on
we
the,
had one. I thought.
Man, this is where Honky comes in because he's so prepared.
Yeah, this is why we
do have a very similar graphic because we went.
Well, I picked TCU again anyway, so and they were 8.5 this week as well, and they covered. So
yeah, we went 3-0. I won Friday night. I don't know what's going on here. Technical difficulties. I won the Friday night game with Washington and Oregon State. Rob, you won TCU, and Boomer, what did you get?
South Carolina over Vanderbilt. So
right, that was a little bit dicey at the end, but
they tried to blow that for him. They had a nice double-digit lead and then decided to fumble with about a minute and a half left. But never really worried. So no concerns.
I don't know what you guys are. I'm now, I believe, 7-4 on the year for best bets.
So. Yeah.
It's not bad. I had a really good week. I've been doing some analytics on my gambling, breaking down what bets have been more successful, and I realized this year that I was hitting the total, either an over or under at like a 70% clip, but I'm not good on the spreads. So this weekend I intentionally picked a lot more over-unders. I think I had 8 or 9 of those and only 3 or 4 spreads. And I went 7-2 on my totals. And then I split my spreads, and I think I went like 9-3 overall or 9-4 overall. So, actually really paying attention to how you gamble actually pays dividends, literally. Go figure.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
I still had a winning week with just taking money lines on Kathy's bets this week. So,
we've got her on the show before the season's over. So,
yeah, just we'll have her show her. Well, yeah, I mean, it's early in the week though, so that's the problem. She generally doesn't send me her picks till like Wednesday or Thursday before
she does the deep analytics.
By the way, I found that graphic, and this was
there we go.
Here, so,
yeah, look at that. There we are.
Yeah, look at that. So
excellent.
A lot of green.
Just call me Honky Junior or whatever you want to.
That's all right.
Dave, I'm trying to figure out how you are 7-4 on the season, though. Did we start out with more bets in week 1 than just one single pick? Because
we had week 0, and I actually, I'm the 1 week we didn't get our bets in. I texted everyone, and I won that one, so I'm going to take it because that was when you'll win, you take it. And I made money on it, so I don't really care. So yeah,
I think I'm like 5-4 on the season is where I'm.
That's
at
pretty good.
Now, so.
We're all better than Skip. We know that.
Oh man, yeah.
All right, guys, let's move to this week. Last week there was a lot of top 25 matchups. You had Tennessee, Georgia, which was a bit of a letdown, but the Alabama LSU game was phenomenal. Great game.
Fun to watch. It's so distasteful having to root for Brian Kelly and LSU, but hey.
And Notre Dame gave us a nice victory over Clemson. Rob's distaste for Notre Dame this year.
Ever since I talked trash about them, they've won both weeks in a row. So there you go.
Right.
Yeah, I am I'm like the Nebraska curse, where if you beat us, you start to lose.
That's right.
And if I mention you, you're gonna win.
So what is on your board this week, guys?
Well, first one is those same LSU Tigers. They're playing early on Saturday, but they're only 3-point favorite against Arkansas, fresh off a loss to Liberty, which kind of surprised me that spread is that low. I think LSU will cover that. But generally, I'm surprised it's that low of a spread. But
it's kind
maybe
of
they're expecting LSU
right there,
too much hurting, but I think Arkansas is might be thrown in the towel. For God's sake, they just lost to Liberty and Hugh Freeze. So
That is just
Hugh
crazy.
Freeze might be the next coach at Auburn. I don't know.
They'd be the one to, they'd do something like that. Yeah.
Purdue, Illinois is a big Big Ten West matchup. Now, Illinois lost last week, but so did Purdue.
I don't trust either of those teams.
No. Illinois is just under a touchdown favorite there in Champaign. Big line here again. Ohio State, they're a 38-point favorite versus Northwestern last week. They're a 40-point favorite versus Indiana. They're home though, so
that's a lot of points though. But they may be trying to make a statement after that, kind of stinker against Hydrox. So if they figure they can come out and put a whooping on Indiana, they're going to try to do it. So it just kind of depends on what you think Indiana can do. So.
Yeah, big number. Alabama trying to lick their wounds here and not have a third loss. 11.5-point favorites over Ole Miss.
And these, Lane Kiffin. So, that's going to be the Saban Bowl, another Saban Bowl, right? Isn't that like part of the coaching tree there? So, Kiffin, I wouldn't be surprised obviously he wants to stick it to Saban there. And now that Saban's pretty much out of the playoffs,
don't say that yet.
Don't
say it yet.
Yeah, don't say that yet. They'll figure out some way to put like Alabama at number 2 with 2 losses somehow.
Yeah, they'll be above TCU somehow this week.
Yeah.
Oh God,
let's see what else we got. Speaking of TCU, they talk about disrespect. 7-point dogs on the road in Austin.
That was going to be
undefeated at 9-0 and touchdown underdogs.
Yeah, it seems Texas. Like every week Vegas is just waiting for them to not rally in the second half like they've been doing week in and week out. I don't know how they do it, but they do. So
yeah, a lot of guys. I was listening coming home last night from my trivia night, driving home, and there's a betting radio show on that kind of starts talking about the early lines, and that was the one they're like, hey, if you're gonna bet the house this week, one guy was like, hey man, can I borrow like $1,000 to put on TCU this week? Like that's the play for the week. That was actually going to be the one that I brought up, Dave. Is last night it was 6.5. It's at 7 now. Is that what you said? Yep. So yeah. So he said by the time the day comes around, it's going to be around 7.5, 8.5 points. They think because a lot of people.
If you could get that under a touchdown, that's always that'd be Texas. It's going up with TCU. You might as well wait it. If it's actually going to move to 8, you're going to get more points.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. Texas did beat K-State. K-State goes to Waco this week, so. The Chris Kleiman versus Dave Aranda, matchup there. And Baylor had that bad loss versus West Virginia earlier in the year. They lost to BYU. They're now 6-3. They beat Oklahoma. Favored at home versus K-State. Whoever wins this is 7-3. So that's a good matchup.
Yeah. And a couple other ones I guess I was eyeballing. The spreads are basically toss-ups at this point. They're about 1 to 1.5 points. You've got the Big 12 dumpster fire bowl now of Iowa State and Oklahoma State, 2 teams that have just really disappointed, for where they're at this point. Yeah, and I'm not sure where I'd bet on that one, but it was one I was eyeballing. And then a Big 10 West one, Wisconsin and Iowa. Wisconsin's a 1.5 point dog, but the over-under on that is about 36. And both teams kind of have almost found offenses the last couple of weeks. I might almost consider taking the over on that. They might both start sniffing 20 points possibly, and that could go over. So that's what I was watching.
Bold decision there, Cotton.
It is, but they've both been scoring somehow. So I don't know how Iowa's been doing it. Wisconsin Mertz suddenly has started to become a serviceable quarterback. So
hey Rob, have you decided to come over to the Academy underside next time one comes up? You want to buy into my.
Yeah, Dave. All right. You were right, Dave. You were right. It happens.
Since 2005, 43-9-1.
I know.
Academy unders.
It's my bad for looking at the numbers. Speaking of numbers, there's my segue. The game that's really interesting to me is the North Carolina Wake Forest game. North Carolina is 8-1. Wake Forest is 6-3, and they're actually a 3.5 point favorite at home versus North Carolina. But the over under on that game is 76.5. So
Wow.
yeah, so they're expecting some scoring to happen there, and they probably think it's going to come down to a field goal at the end. I saw that, like if it was like a over under 42 and a spread of 3.5, I was gonna wonder if they accidentally mixed an NFL game in there or something. But yeah, so,
I'm glad you brought that game up, Rob, because North Carolina is an interesting story this year. I mean, they lose early.
Brett Ciancia sure missed that one by a year, didn't he?
By a year, and then they have really. I mean, their defense has played better. They're still not great, but it's more competent. And now they're 7-1, and are in kind of 8-1, and somewhat in the driver's seat there in the ACC.
Yeah.
And this is Mac Brown's 4th year. There's a good example. Just like someone saying like someone like Gary Patterson is too old and out. Mac Brown was kind of washed up at Texas, took several years off in the TV booth, and he comes back, and he had a down year last year a little bit, but I mean, this is a second really good season there, and the guy's like, I don't know, like 70 or something.
He's got to be in the 70s.
Yeah. A good coach is a good coach if they know how to organize and set everything up, so just throwing it out there. So
no, it's an interesting game. I honestly, up until like a couple of weeks ago, I hadn't really paid any attention to North Carolina, and then all of a sudden there was a game on. I was like,
keep winning.
I was like, they're what? I think at the time they were 6-1, and I was just like, what? Like, like it kind of blew my mind. They're sneaky good this year, and kind of surprised they're 3.5-point dogs at Wake Forest. So that should be interesting. It'll be a good game.
All right, guys. Anything else on the card?
I don't know. What's so funny, Dave? You got yourself a little
breaking news. Mac Brown in Nebraska.
Oh,
hilarious.
He's been breaking new coaches all game or all shows. So pretty exciting stuff here. You heard it here first from the Redcast.
That's right. Absolutely. All right, guys, let's get out of here with some parting shots. Let's start with Rob.
Well, he took off already, and I just want to give a shout out. Honky and I made a donation. We pulled our money together, made a donation to the Bits of Broken Chair trophy contest with Minnesota, which I believe Nebraska ended up winning. And after 5,
not the football game, but
the
donation,
but the actual donation, and after 5 other people basically declined to accept the prize, Honky and I got an email today basically saying, hey, you guys won the drawing or next in line for the drawing for a free round of golf at the TPC Twin Cities next year.
Awesome.
And, and Honky's not much a golfer. Dave, I like to golf and been playing a lot more this year than I've played any other year. And so I'm pretty excited because we're actually going to play. It looks like we've already like got a chat going and everything. We're going to play the Wednesday before the Minnesota game. So August 30th, we'll be playing golf. September 1st, we'll be at Minnesota. And watching the Huskers open the season against Minnesota in the Thursday night game. And, I'm pretty excited. Hopefully the Twins are in town and I can catch a ball game before I headed home, and I'll be home for the weekend, which is even better. You know what I mean? Right. I can just call it a work trip, right? Because my daughter already thinks this is my job. So I might as well just, head out. Good. But yeah, big thanks to Jeremy because he's a member there at the TPC Twin Cities and
very cool.
And he offered up this round of golf, and I think what we're going to end up doing is playing with the president of the Broken Chair Trophy Foundation as well. Great. So that's going to be, like building some friendships and some connections and getting to watch some football too. So that's going to be a great time.
Cool. All right, Boomer, what do you got?
No, just congrats on winning after being the fifth or sixth option there, guys. So
thank you.
Win.
Hey, you know what, man?
We might get our 5th or 6th option as coach too.
I was like,
turned out just fine.
And I was my wife's like 10th option before we got married. So
makes sense. So yeah, sometimes that's what you got to.
She's still vetting others, actually, Rob.
I know. She's gonna end up being like Lincoln Riley and just announce she's leaving at one point to go something better.
Yeah. That's fair. Well, my shout outs to Nebraska basketball, but in this case, the actually ranked Nebraska women's basketball, who opened their season today as well, just crushing University of Nebraska Omaha, I believe 100-36. So
yeah, that is impressive.
That was some solid basketball there. Just defensively were just dominating. I think they held UNO to like shooting 21%, which is not good. That's about the way I would shoot. And
yeah,
they looked
everybody
pretty
hit a
solid.
3-point shot. Is that right, Boomer?
Yeah. So it was, they look good all around. So, I mean, that's a nice way to start the season. And I'm pretty excited to see what they can do. I mean, they had a good season last year. They're fun to watch. And yeah, it should be more than ever. So, yeah. And they scored 100 points without taking a free throw. So if that tells you anything, how good they were. So
that's
pretty good way to
amazing.
start the season. So there's at least some excitement in Nebraska basketball, both ends. So get out and enjoy when you can.
Absolutely. All
and
right.
you can have beer while you watch it. So.
And it does
That's
look
right.
like the Twins are home while we're there, so I might just fly out Tuesday, catch a night game for the Twins.
We're
or catch a game
vacation
Wednesday
planning
night.
on the show.
Absolutely. And I think Skip is trying to get on in this too. But we'd love to meet up with him because he's actually going to be in Minnesota and he can come out for the Twins game at least.
Can I go and skip golf altogether?
Yeah, come hang out, Boomer. Come with us.
That'll work. Yeah.
Last time you were there, you needed like a warm jacket and a flask, and you and the 10 other people at the game were enjoying.
I don't know if I could be allowed to go. Obviously, I've got my losing
Dave, you
streak.
can travel. You have like a felony arrest or something. You can't cross the.
Well, I just can't go to the game. I feel like everybody's going to blame me if we lose. Because
I
head coach.
It wasn't me.
It's going to be my fault. You know.
We lost last time I went too, Dave. So it doesn't matter.
Oh, well, the best part about that game is I'm going to go to the game in Minnesota, which just found out today. And my wife was like, "Have fun, whatever." But the very following week, I get to go to a Nebraska game. I don't even have to leave home other than to go to the game because I can just drive over to Boulder. So oh my God, it's we are obviously going to be doing that, Who knows? I might even put in for some press passes for that game. So,
all right, guys, good stuff. Fun talking to you. Hopefully, we get Honky back at some point. But if not, we will continue this conversation the next few weeks until we get our head coach. For now, let's call that a Go Big Redcast.
Go Big Red.
A Huda Media Production.